Okay, Bruchim Abayim, welcome everyone. Shalom Aleichem. This evening we're doing our Friday shir because I'm not going to be able to give it in tomorrow morning, so I don't want you to miss Davar, Yafeh be'itai. So I want to bring up the Marmakoimos on the screen for you. We have amazing material. Davar Yafeh be'itai, connecting the Zman Hashana, connecting the Parsha to the Zman Hashana, connecting Parshas Balak to the Zman Hashana. So, of course, we know that this week will be Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, which will be Emeretz Hashem on Tuesday. The Gemara tells us at the end of Masechta Tainis on Chavav Amud Aleph, going on to Chavav Amud Beis, 5 tragedies happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, and of course 5 on Tisha B'Av. The luchos were broken, the Tamid stopped being brought, the city was breached, Apostamos burnt the Torah, he put up a tselem in the Heichal. However, fundamentally they are all rooted in the Chet HaEgal that occurred on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, like it says in Tehillim, Vayamiru es kavaydam b'tavne shar oichel esev, which the Arizal explains to mean Esev, they exchanged their honor in the image of an ox eating grass. The Arizal says Esev is Rashi Tevis Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, like the Roikeach says on the pasuk, Ad shehamelech b'mesibai nirdi nasan reicha, it says in Shiurim, which is when the king was at the party, we gave off a foul smell. Ayin, Shin, Beis, Rashi Tevis, Esev, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. The Gemara calls this Aluva Kala Shezin Satachas Chupasa. Aluva, how shameful it is for a Kala to be Mazana under the chuppah. And therefore, this week, we're commemorating Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. We're commemorating the day of the Chet HaEgal. How goodly is it, how Yafeh it is, that we're reading Parshas Balak in the week before Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, because there is a fundamental connection between Bilam and his curses and the Chet HaEgal. Firstly, the Arizal reveals to us in the Shar HaPsukim that the neshama of his father Ba'ar was in the Egal. Can you imagine? The neshama of Ba'ar was in the Egal. Furthermore, when Bilam went to curse Klal Yisrael, it says, Ushnei Na'arav Imai. And Yonasan ben Uziel explains, Ushnei Na'arav Imai, his 2 young men, Yonus and Yumbarus. And that Arizal says that these 2 individuals were the heads of the Erev Rav who made the Egal. So we see 2 connections between Bilam and the Egal. His father's soul was in the Egal, and his children made the Egal. And therefore we understand why when Bilam went to curse the Klal Yisrael, it says, Vayashes el hamidbar panav. Targum explains, Vishavi lemidbara da'avdu be'igla apahi. Bilam faced the desert and the Chet HaEgal, meaning Bilam knew that the vantage point to be able to curse Klal Yisrael was the Egal. That's Bilam figure, that's Klal Yisrael's point of vulnerability. And therefore we could say this is also the Pesach of the Bein HaMetzarim, of the Yemei HaMetzarim. So you think it's a coincidence that the Shabbos before the Bein HaMetzarim, we read about the Chet HaEgal. The Chet HaEgal is what set off the whole period of the Bein HaMetzarim. You know, we find in the writings of the Arizal that by the Chet HaEgal, Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned all 13 Midos Harachamim. And by the Chet HaMeraglim, Moshe Rabbeinu only invoked 9 of the Midos Harachamim. And the Arizal says something incredible. The Arizal says that the Chet HaEgal, which set off the days in Tammuz of the Bein HaMetzarim, well, there are 13 days in Tammuz in the Bein HaMetzarim. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu invoked all Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim. Masha'in Kain. In Av, there are only 9 days. Therefore, by the Chet HaMeraglim, which set off Tisha B'Av, which is the fatherhead of the days of Bein HaMetzarim and Av, well, Av, Moshe Rabbeinu invoked 9 of the Midas Harachamim. This would give us insight into why we read Parshas Balak the week before Shavasa B'Tammuz. Shavasa B'Tammuz was rooted in the Chet Egal, and Parshas Bilam is Bilam trying to curse Klal Yisrael from the vantage point of the Chet Egal. Again, he was connected, his father's soul was in the Egal, his children made the Egal. This is why Bilam came to be Mevatel the Shalosh Regalim. Like the donkey said, Lama hi kisani zeh Shalosh Regalim. Bilam, you think you could uproot a nation that serves, that commemorates, that observes the three regalim? Why did the donkey say you can't be Iker Klal Yisrael that observes the Shalosh Regalim? You can't be Iker Klal Yisrael that puts on tefillin. Why dafka the Shalosh Regalim? And there's a very interesting idea that the Shalosh Regalim is a tikkun for the Chet HaEgal. If you look in the Svarno in Mishpatim, on the pasuk Shalosh Regalim Tachag li Hashana, the Svarno explains, like it says, Yismach Yisrael ba'osav, which is the opposite of Vayares HaEgal u'machaylos. We know the Svarno learns that the sin of the Egal was not so much that they made the Egal, but that they rejoiced over it, and therefore the joy of the Shalosh Regalim is Mavatel the Egal. Therefore Bilam was specifically coming to destroy the Shalosh Regalim, because the Shalosh Regalim is a tikkun for the Egal. Furthermore, there's an amazing sefer called Kasnais Ar, Rabbi Meir Varzir, that the Shalosh Regalim, 7 days of Pesach, 7 days of Sukkot, and Shavuos, 15 days times 24, 360 hours. The 360 hours of the Shalosh Regalim are Mevatel the Chet HaEgal. We know the Chet HaEgal was 6 hours. Vayar ha'am ki boi sheish Moshe, ba sheish. And by the way, this is one of the reasons we explained why sometimes Chukas and Balak are a double parsha. Why do Chukas and Balak go together? Chukas and Balak go together, we could say, because Balak is taking advantage of the Chet HaEgal, and Chukas is a paraduma, which is a tikkun for the Chet HaEgal. My dear friend Rabbi Rafael Ansel of France added, perhaps that's why Parshas Balak has 104 psukim. Gematria Egel im HaKoilel. Now we understand even the Haftarah, of Parshas Balak is Davar Yafeh be'itai, because the Haftarah begins V'haya she'eris Yaakov b'karev amim rabim ketal me'eis Hashem kervivim alei esev, which could mean as follows: L'asad lavai, Hashem is going to send the mayim of Torah, and He's going to transform Esav. Esav, as we learned from the Arizal, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, that Soim Haravi will be L'beis Yehuda, L'sasayno L'simcha. I want to mention, in the Sefer Machsoif Halavan of Rabbi Yaakov Abichatzera, he also draws a connection between the Egal and Parshas Balak, because in the beginning of the Parsha, it says, Ata yilachaku hakahol es kol svivaseinu. They're going to destroy us, but we are reliant on kilchoy chashar es yarak hasada. And this is a remez, kilchoy hashar es yarak hasada, like the Arizal says, vayamir es kvedim b'tavna shar oichal esav, that the Egal ate Esav. So the reference of the shar here is a reference to the idea that the reference of the reference to the shar is a reference to the idea that the Egal, the reference to the shar is a reference to the idea that Balak was coming from the vantage point of the Egal. So this is very interesting. Remez to the idea that the Chet, that the Klala of Bilam was rooted in the Egal. Now, During the Bein HaMetzarim, we anticipate that it will transform for Klal Yisrael l'sasoin, l'simcha, l'mayadim toivim. Yeah. So it's interesting that the during the 3 weeks we anticipate the coming of the Geula. We're mitzapeh to transform the period of Bein HaMetzarim to Sasain and Simcha, like we explained earlier in Parshas Chukas, and we're hoping for the tzmicha of Ben David. Perhaps then we could add, that's the reason why we read Parshas Balak as a haktama to the Bein HaMetzarim, because Chazal say in Masechta Soita that in the merit of the 42 karbanos that Balak brought, he was zoicha for Rus to come out and ultimately David. So it's an amazing idea that we, as a preparation for the 3 weeks, for the time that we're awaiting the flourishing of the Malchus Beis David, we read Parshas Balak and the zechus that Balak had, that David HaMelech came out from him. Now, if you look in the Sefer Emunas Yitecha and Parshas Balak, he also brings Ba'arichos, the kesher between our Parsha and the Yimei HaMetzarim, especially Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. He says, there's an idea that every person is rooted in a certain mitzvah. Each mitzvah is connected to a specific day in the year. There are 365 loisases. They are connected the 365 days of the year. The Zohar HaKadosh says, Al Ken Lo Yochel Meisos Ger Anosha, that this mitzvah is connected to Tisha B'Av. Now, we find that Shiva Asar B'Tammuz has in it all the success of Rus. By the way, on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, Rus was permitted to marry into Boaz, and Rus was successful, and she entered the Kahal, and she married Boaz, and she conceived, she became pregnant to give birth to Oved, which is the Shoresh of Yishai, according to the Chassam Sofer. So that means Yud Zayin B'Tammuz has a holy spark, and what happened with Rus is a simon for Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. Rus was an elevated neshama that the Or of Mashiach was latent in, and she was held captive in the klipa of Moav, like Yifas Tayar, until she met Nomi, and Rus clung to her, and she emerged from the klipa of Moav. And therefore the day that is specifically intertwined with Rus is Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. And Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is a similar day. Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is also in captivity. It's the head of the Bein HaMetzarim. And that's when the Ketev Mariri is dominant. It's a certain poisonous herb which is reflective of the Midas Hadin of the time. But at its root, it's also a very elevated day. So there's certain people connected to certain days of the year. Rus is connected to Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. On this day, Aaron said Chag Lashem Machar, which will ultimately be a Yom Tif. And it will be the beginning of Ditza V'Chedva, Tzoim Haravi Yia L'Sasain U'L'Simcha. And just like Pesach is the head of all the Mayados, the head of all the Mayadim of Bein HaMetzarim will be Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, the day of the Ibor of Rus. Now, Bayak was a big klipa, and his whole source of vitality was from the spark of Kedusha of David HaMelech who was in him. And he felt this, and he wanted to make sure that this spark would not emerge. And his whole desire was Bima'akev Rus from being born. And he wanted to make sure that Rus would never come about, and that Shiva Asar B'Tammuz would never be a happy day. And this way his Malchus would remain Netzach Netzachim. He didn't want Rus to ever contact and encounter Boaz. This is what it means. Vayagar Moav mibnei ha'am ki ravhu Rav Rus Boyaz. He was afraid of the chibur of Rus and Boyaz. He was afraid that they would be Oiker Moav, and then Moav would be done, and therefore he hired Bilam. V'yerd mi Yaakov. Yerd is gematria Ravhu. That's what he was afraid. Rashi brings the pasuk, as Shiva HaMizbechos Harachti, that Bilam was mispair, that he built 7 mizbechos, connected what all the avos built, and he brought more karbanos than them. Why did he say this? Because he's coming to counteract Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. On Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, the karbanos were nisbatel. It's one of the 5 tragedies that happened. Butal HaTomid, like we find in the Gemara in Tainis. And he is coming with the Taina. Why would you take Rus from me? Rus is by me. And if Rus is by me, the power of the day that we were Mavatal Karbanos, that's better. Why? Because when Rus is with me, I'm makriv more Karbanos. His argument was, let me keep Rus with me, and even though ultimately that would mean that the Karbanos will be Nisbatel, I'm makriv more Karbanos. This is what it means as Shivas HaMizbechos Arachti. Shivas is Rashi Tevos. Shiva Asar B'Chodesh Tammuz, or Shabai Butal Oilas Tamid. From Rus, I'll bring all those karbanis that will ultimately be Nisbatel. So the pasuk says, Vayar, the parsha begins, Vayar Balak ben Sipar, Vayagar Moav, Ato Yelachachu, Balak ben Sipar Melech L'Moav, Ba'is Hahi. Why does it have to say Ba'is Hahi? It should have said he was the king in the beginning of the parsha. Why did it wait till there? It's trying to explain that there's an awesome time that about which it is relevant that he's the king. Ba'is. Ba'is is b'gematria Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. Ba'is is Rashi Tevos Butal Oilas Tamid. Yud Zayin B'Tammuz is under his sovereignty. He doesn't want to let it go. He wants to capture Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. That's why he was afraid. Ki Ravhu. He's saying, let me hold on to Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. He says, Ata Yelachaku. Ata Rashi Tevos Oilas Tamud Ha'asoi. So again, according to Rav Wolfson, the whole subject matter of what Balak was afraid of, he was afraid that the Shoresh of David will be released. Ki Ravhu Rus Boyaz. He wanted to make sure that Shiva Asar B'Tammuz would never come to fruition. He was the Melech Moav Ba'is. He's the king of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. He doesn't want to let it out of his clutches. He doesn't want to let Shiva Asar B'Tammuz free. Now, one last idea. We've already mentioned in Parshas Shlach and Kairach, that which is brought in the Sefer HaYetzirah on Chodesh Tammuz. Himlich ois ches b're'iyah, the sense which is dominant in Tammuz is sight. And the Arizal says the Evarei Harosh that are dominant are the Einayim. So Re'iyah and Einayim are a dominant theme in this parsha. Vayar Balak ben Sipar, Hine Chisas ein haaretz, Vatira ha'asain, it says 3 times. Vayegal Hashem es einei Bilam, God uncovered the eyes of Bilam. Ki meirosh surim erenu. Asher terenu misham, efes katseu sira v'chulei lo sira. Vayisa Bilam esena vayaras Yisrael, noifel ugloy einayim, erenu v'loy ata, vayaras hakeni, vayar Pinchas ben Elazar. So in this time of the year, when the sense of sight is dominant and the Einayim are dominant, these are prominent themes in Parshas Balak, which there cannot be a more appropriate parsha read for Chodesh Tammuz, in preparation of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, Vayar Balak ben Sipar, Balak ben Sipar Melech Ba'es. Ba'es is Gematria, the 17th of Tammuz, the day the Tamid was Nisbatel. Okay, that's our Davar Yafeh B'itar for this week. I want to share with you one idea from the holy Ben La'ashri.